Okay, this is today's topic, The Higher Power You Can Use by McDonald Bain. This book I purchased some 25 odd years ago at the local markets at Byron Bay, I believe. Um, I liked the colour. I thought the picture on it was pretty cool. $8 was the price. The original sticker at the top says $14.95. The cover, as you can see, is busted. Let's go to a little bit of information. It was published in London by Professor Murdo McDonald Bain, MC, PhD, DD, the Master's Course of Instruction textbook. And it says 10th impression, August 1982. Printed and bound in England by Staples Printers, Rochester, Limited at the Stanhope Press. There's an introduction which I will read, but also I will read the back cover first, because it too has come awry. Other books by McDonald Bain include The Higher Power You Can Use, I Am the Life, Heal Yourself, Divine Healing of Mind and Body, Life Everlasting, Spiritual and Mental Healing, How to Relax and Revitalize Yourself. For many thousands of people who called to hear Dr. McDonald Bain's lectures, it was an experience never to be forgotten. His language was perfect, without a flaw and without hesitation, each sentence spoken effortlessly, with no pause for thought. People who attended these lectures testified to a transformation in which the doctor appeared to grow visibly, his face taking quite a different expression and radiating light. McDonald Bain himself described how he became aware of a sublime power, a consciousness far above his own. People who heard him believed that they were in the presence of a great master. Born in Scotland in 1887, McDonald Bain was for many years a student of the inner teachings. In the late 1930s, he was directed to visit Tibet, and here he studied under the great teacher Geshe Rinpoche. I hope I pronounced that. After his enlightenment, he set out on his mission, healing the sick and teaching what he knew to be the truth in many parts of the world. And the very last page of this talks about another book. This one says, I Am the Life. Dr. McDonald Bain has written a sequel to The Higher Power You Can Use under the name of I Am the Life. This book will fulfill the great longing of those people who desire to know the deepest inner truths of life and the realization of the highest riches by unfolding the mighty power within. It has been written under direct contact with higher spiritual intelligences and is perhaps the only book of its kind today that reveals the real oneness of life, enabling the reader to solve all personal problems, gaining complete freedom under all circumstances, thus assuring a healthy and happy life. The great thing is, it gives in simple language the mighty word of power, which is missing in nearly all advanced literature, namely that complete knowing that is so essential for the individual as well as for the whole of humanity. Through this supreme power in human life, men have become prophets, seers, sages, and saviors. We in all sincerity recommend this book to you as the only answer to the great problem facing the human race. It reveals the secret known to the ancient prophets. The real teaching of Jesus is portrayed in simple and clear statements. It also reveals the basic principles of the solution of personal problems and world reconstruction. This book is bound to have a tremendous appeal to all peoples of the world as it contains the basic truth sought by all. Dr. McDonald Bain writes from practical experience. He has travelled the world several times, healing thousands of people of all kinds of diseases and teaching the truth of the law of being to many thousands more. He has studied and gained experience in many lands, including Europe, America, Asia, India, and Tibet, and has spent long periods with the true masters of the Tibetan Himalayas, where he received the true enlightenment essential for the writing of I Am the Life, the pinnacle of truth. So the introduction, just leave that in the very last page down there so they don't keep falling around. The introduction begins on page 9. We have 141 pages altogether to read. So it's going to take me some time, as I say. This is going to be an adventure, possibly through several parts. We'll just see how we go. What I will do is just drag that light over a little bit further. It's already starting to get dark, and it's like, what is it? 3? Oh, it's nearly 4 o'clock. That's probably why. Easter Sunday, 2019. So, Merry Christmas and Happy Easter. Yes, that's right. I did say Merry Christmas. Every day should be Christmas. So here we go with the introduction. I feel it a great honour to be the bearer of this message to the world, but I do not claim any special privilege, nor do I claim any spiritual quality that makes me any different from my fellow men. For many years, I've been an earnest worker and a student of the inner teachings, healing the sick and teaching what I knew of the truth all over the world, and I have met with a very large measure of success. For this, I alone was not wholly responsible, as I now know, having been spiritually helped and guided throughout all these years of probation. It was not until one night when a mysterious visitor appeared to me that I knew what my real mission was. He spoke these words: I have been with you a long time, but you knew it not. Sorry, I'm just getting a bit comfortable here. But now the time has come for me to make myself known to you. I will guide you to the Himalayas in Tibet, where you shall receive instructions of your real mission. Many are called, but few are chosen. Are you prepared to leave all and follow me? Fear not, for the world will rejoice. The message you will bear will take away the confusion from the minds of the people. And those who will hear you are my people. I will be by your side, and your strength shall not fail. For whom God has chosen, he shall sustain. And he took his departure as silently as he had come. From that time on, I was directed step by step to the great Himalayas in Tibet, and there in the hidden recesses of the majestic snow-clad mountains, where the atmosphere is so clear and the vibrations so pure that heaven opens up onto earth, in that glorious state where heaven and earth are as one, I was instructed what to do and where to go. During my sojourn there, I witnessed spiritual manifestations so wonderful that words utterly fail to describe them. Later, I will present to the world, in book form, details of these happenings, what I saw and heard, also my travels and experiences, with pictures of the way to the most inaccessible parts of the great Tibetan Himalayas. I shall also reveal the joys and ecstasy of meeting daily with the masters, whose love, sympathy, and simplicity is the secret of their mighty power. For love is God, and God is love. For he so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son. They who hearken unto him will find eternal immortality. When the soul is ready, the Master appears, and those who are ready will hear and know the Master's voice proclaiming all nations one nation, all peoples one people, all life one life, one tree with many branches, but the same life in one in all and all in one. I myself make no claim. I am just a voice in the wilderness calling to the sons and daughters of God to hearken unto the truth. For this I was told, I was born. Love and peace be with you. M. MacDonald Bain. The Master's Course on the Higher Power You Can Use by Murdo MacDonald Bain, MC, PhD, DD. Lesson 1. This course is written for the express purpose of leading you along the path of the Masters, freeing you from limitation and imitation in the world of forms, creeds, dogmas, ideas, theories, concepts, etc., that limit and confuse the mind, thereby distorting the truth. You cannot discern or understand unless the mind is free and unlimited, for it is the natural intelligence that opens the way to the understanding of life. You cannot perceive the truth because it is beyond your perception. What you perceive is only in your imagination, an idea, a sensation, an image, whereas truth is none of these. But through the super technique, as explained in this course, there comes a supreme understanding. Then there is no more rushing here and there. There is no anxiety in case you cannot find the way. There is no more strife, striving to be something that you imagine you should be to ensure eternal life and all that goes with it. No more trying to force your mind to comprehend something that it cannot comprehend because it is beyond mind. You cannot search out something that is ever present. That is like trying to find yourself beside yourself. It is like running after your own shadow. The inner teachings of the Master Christ will be revealed. I am the way, the truth, and the light. The power of the truth can only be established when we free our minds from all concepts and preconceived ideas. The truth will then set us free. And although we live in the world of phenomena and shadows, we are not bound by it. I am not of this world, the Master said. Ideas conceived in the divine mind come forth into expression in form, and form may be transformed through a change in consciousness in regard to it. This is the law revealed by the Master. The I Am is the door through which the consciousness, intelligence and substance of the great I Am, which is God, comes forth into expression in form through the individual. This I Am being is consciousness, intelligence and substance, and is given form through consciousness. Consciousness is the father, intelligence is the mother, and the substance is the vehicle of expression. and the divine expression is the child, the three in one. Consciousness is the will which makes the mold, and the life, intelligence, and substance fill the mold. Consciousness directs, intelligence fulfills the direction in the substance, and form comes forth. The divine perfect image is expressed without effort. The Master said, "According to your faith, so be it unto you." This faith is in the consciousness, in the perfect divine image. Fully comprehend this, and you will know the Christ power. All things are possible to them that believe. You must grasp this fundamental principle, and then these lessons will give you the understanding and use of the Christ power, or the power of the Masters. You must separate yourself from all external faculties, from your mind, from your body, because they are but instruments that you use. The consciousness must analyze everything external to itself. When you say, "I am," realize that it is the real. The "I am" enables you to move, think, act, and you are using your instruments as a means of expression. The substance of the great "I am" is the perfect substance out of which all things are made, brought forth by consciousness and intelligence in substance. This perfect substance is the foundation of and supports all forms. In the consciousness, the divine idea exists. The intelligence completes the idea in detail, and the idea is expressed in the substance in all planes of manifestation, including the spiritual, mental, astral, and physical planes, each being but a modification of the one above it. Substance, having no power of its own, changes, fulfilling the expression of the intelligence directed by the consciousness. God is all there is: consciousness, intelligence, and substance. God is expressing himself through the particular center of consciousness that you are. Everything is given form by consciousness. Your consciousness is the consciousness of God. It is the realization of this that enables you to say, "I and the Father are one." Perfection is reality. Imperfection is not real. Reality always exists and always has existed. Please recognize this truth. Gaze upon it and bring it forth. As your divine consciousness brings forth form in substance, so is the intelligence within the substance. There is only one God, and God is not divisible. There is one basic substance, and that substance is indivisible. All things are created out of the perfect substance. Therefore, this substance underlies all things. I want you to grasp this truth. All is spirit. Out of him who is spirit, all things have been made. Spirit in its essence is perfect. The substance out of which your bodies and everything has been created is a perfect substance with perfect intelligence. This intelligence acts automatically and has the power of expression. The consciousness is in this great intelligence and is the will which causes form to come forth. Consciousness, intelligence, substance are three in one, and out of the three in one, all things are created. Life is the combined action of consciousness and intelligence in substance, and its motion is love. You may ask, how does all the imperfection come about? Well, this consciousness, this intelligence, this substance, divine mind, is that out of which all things have been created. All things are mind. Everything you see, however, large or small, has come from the one source. There is no other source it could come from. The basic substance in its essence is perfect and is the only reality of substance. This is the secret, and the Masters grasp the truth in its entirety. They act from life, their words are life, because they touch the life that creates everything. Form of itself has no power of its own, neither does it claim any power of its own. In the infinite consciousness of God is held the perfect image. Therefore, the perfect image is always in existence. The I am in you is the point through which you contact this divine consciousness, and this consciousness becomes, as it were, apparently an individual consciousness to each and every one, but it is not a separate consciousness. When you think separation and have accepted it, then you have separated yourself mentally from the one great infinite consciousness, but it is a false conception. The great Master said, "I and the Father are one." He not only said it, he knew it. It was not a platitude. To him, it was an actual reality. When you recognize this mighty truth, the realization of it gives you control and everything obeys you. The elements respond to your call and form according to the image held with this understanding. When this state of consciousness is held, the idea or image held in the consciousness is produced by the intelligence, and the work is done without effort. The intelligence always fulfilling the direction of the consciousness. We make a success of our life when we know this law and apply it with faith. We make a failure of our life when we do not know this law and let in fear and doubt, which causes a vacillating action of the intelligence, the mother. But when in divine meditation with a faithful consciousness, the mother, intelligence, does the work perfectly and changes the whole nature automatically. Why is it possible for one person to do what another person cannot do? Because the one realizes and recognizes it possible and the other does not. When you realize that there is only one consciousness, one intelligence, one substance, God infinite, and that you are an expression of God infinite, you can say, I and the Father are one, in body, in mind, in spirit. But when you accept separation, you assert the authority of the great I am, God. When you assert that authority, you begin thinking imperfectly, and by that same I am within you, you bring forth that which is not perfect. How is it possible to bring forth that which is perfect? Allow God, with his perfect intelligence, to work through you. The simplicity of it is so great that it overwhelms us. Aspiration is the method you must use to begin with, and then you become filled with divine love, wisdom, and power, which act together in perfect harmony, and growth becomes as natural as that of the flowers. In cases of healing, different people require different methods. One requires mud, one requires water, and another only the spoken word according to their unfoldment. I have healed people without saying a single word to them. I have affirmed all this spirit. God is perfect, therefore allow God who is perfect to be made manifest now, and the person has become perfectly well. The perfect expression of God within dispersed that which was false. The real always exists. The false is only a concept, an idea, while the truth is none of these. It is, and that which is perfect. Christ knew the secret of healing intensely. Also he knew that if two agree upon the same thing, so it is unto them that believe. That is why he asked, do you believe? Yes, well, according to your belief, so shall it be unto you. Why? Because the consciousness, intelligence, and substance of God is perfect and is your foundation. When you recognize this truth, you dismiss everything else. All negative thoughts, all inferior and imperfect conditions are lies and have no existence in reality. God is immovable, unlimited, unchangeable. The I am within you never changes. It is always the same. But the external form changes because it is relative. Yet the substance, which is the basis of the form, is a perfect substance. Relative things are not realities. Therefore, I want you to recognize that reality exists everywhere and is the basis and essence of everything. If the external form seems to you imperfect, the substance and basis of it all is perfect. You have heard of miracles, yet they are nothing more than the perfect action of a perfect law that exists eternally and is omnipresent, present everywhere, always. To realize that the perfect is enables it to manifest. Allow the God intelligence to manifest through your mind, through your body, through your affairs. That does not mean that you are not to do anything. It means that you begin to think and act with God until such time as your thoughts and works become God's, until such time as you do not utter a word that is not of God. Remain silent under all circumstances unless you can give divine counsel, is the ruling of the masters. By your own consciousness, by your spoken word, you have created form, and you speak words so lightly. You allow your imagination to run rampant. You create with your own consciousness forms that are imperfect. Realize that there is a perfect consciousness within you and a perfect substance in use. It does not require to be made perfect. The perfect can not be made more perfect. Then be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. What you gaze, what you bring forth. When you realize your oneness with the Father and you are one with him, unlimited and free, and there is no power external to yourself greater than the power within you. Spiritualize your mind and body with this supreme consciousness. Allow it to permeate your mind and body as it was with the Master Jesus. Many people wonder why his physical body disappeared. His body was raised to such a rate of vibration that when the consciousness holding it together left it, the atoms were not attracted by the vibrations of the earth, but were absorbed into a higher state. They did not belong to the earth because he raised them beyond the vibration of the earth. The same law applied to Moses and Elijah. The same law exists today. God the manifester and his manifestation are one, always have been and always will be. It is of this you must be conscious. If you take a piece of earth substance up into the atmosphere and drop it, it will fall to the ground. It falls to the ground because here you have a small piece of matter that is vibrating at the same rate of vibration as a larger piece of matter, which is attracting it. The inherent attraction is the vibration in the material, and that attraction is in the ether. Vibration is energy, and it is this energy or vibration that attracts. According to the rate of vibration, so is the attraction. When you raise the vibration of a piece of matter to the vibration of its atomic rate, it would pass into atmosphere because of this law of attraction. The invisible substance is the perfect substance out of which all is created. Christ raised his body to that rate. Hence, Christ's body is our body, his spirit, our spirit, and his life, our life, which is all God's, all in all. Christ manifested his God power as we can do if we believe as he did. This is the law. This is how the body of the Master disappeared. And when he met his disciples afterwards, he did not meet them in the physical garment, but in the resurrection body. He passed through the doors and appeared to them. As he raised his physical body to its atomic state, so he could attract by the power of his will atoms of ether, reduce the vibration, and the physical appeared. Matter is ether modified. There is soon coming a period when certain laws will be in operation which will supersede the existing laws. Although these laws have always existed, man has not raised his consciousness sufficiently to contact them. When Christ went up to the mount, Moses and Elijah visited him and told him what was forthcoming. Similar things happen today. During my visit to the Himalayas, I spoke to many of the great intelligences because there where opportunities and facilities exist. Even in the West, I have had wonderful experiences. Since my sojourn with the masters of the East, I'm convinced more than ever of the truth of Christ's teachings. But how few can read them with understanding, even those who profess him? There is the invisible influence with you, always directing you. You will find that you will get a better understanding by trusting it. The world may be affected by wars, storms, and earthquakes. That is not to say it will not end in good. Some people say that civilizations shall be destroyed. That is not so. A civilization shall arise, and the truth will be made known to mankind. The physical form of many may be destroyed, but not the consciousness, nor the substance, nor the resurrection body, for they will be intact. This is what the Master showed. The you, the real you, is the eternal reality, the manifester in the manifestation. Just as the resurrection body was visible to the disciples, so shall the resurrection body be visible to the forthcoming civilization. And the so-called dead, who are living, will mingle with the so-called living, who are dead. Why are they dead? They are dead to the truth that life exists eternally, that consciousness exists forever. They are dead to themselves. But it is a false concept and has no foundation in truth. I am the father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am the father of the living, not the dead. Jesus made this so plain to his disciples, and it is the same today as it was yesterday and will be the same tomorrow. As the evolutionary process of the great human family progresses, so the various senses that are at present dormant will come to life. When this body is more spiritualized, the I am, which is the consciousness in the substance, will bring them forth, for they are already there. Spirit is all. Then you will see the so-called dead. Some scientists would like you to believe that the universe is running down like a clock. Who wound it up? They have started at the wrong end. Perpetual motion has always existed. God is perpetual motion. Has everything a beginning? Everything relative has a beginning, but the reality never had a beginning. A relative thing has a beginning and will have an ending, but how could God have a beginning? How could the infinite have a beginning? If the infinite had a beginning, there would have to be a greater infinite to have created it, and so back and back ad infinitum. Then God would be relative, and your existence in God would be relative. But your existence in God is not relative, it is eternal. Your existence on this plane is relative. All relative things are changeable phenomena. Divine consciousness is the only eternal reality. It is necessary then that we should realize and recognize it in this life. The human brain cannot comprehend the immensity of the infinite and never will, because if the human brain could comprehend the infinite would become human and therefore would be relative. The truth that you can perceive is only in your imagination, an idea, a sensation, whereas truth is none of these things. It is useless trying to force your mind to comprehend something that is beyond it. Life is. It does not have to be, it is. You are it, yet you cannot comprehend it with your mind, but only know that you are. Live in faith, believing, knowing. Let wisdom and love guide you. Listen deeper in your soul and wait, not anxiously, but with faith. You have the power of reason, but your reasoning power is unable to grasp the whole truth. Yet the truth does not run contrary to your reason, but goes beyond it. All great men and women recognize this fact. They see things beyond their reason. Whenever you limit truth, you limit yourself. Great men and women see no limit. These things do not go contrary to your reason, then do not limit them by your reason. Trying to find your real self outside yourself is like trying to catch your own shadow. Be still, know your real self to be yourself, and you will find that self. You cannot define reality. There is nothing in or out of mind to compare it with. It is beyond all things seen or heard. Let your self-consciousness be expansive. Be aware of it as the whole. And the I loses itself. The I no longer arises. Then the true intelligence transforms the nature and the spiritual world is seen before your eyes. The king and his kingdom become one. Doubt and fear disappear. The nature is transformed without effort. Yet there must be continued effort to be expansive. Freed from limitation and illusion, a constant awareness must be held lest limitation enter in. When this complete living is established, you will move with faith. Love, wisdom, and power are expressed as one and are as natural as the breath of life. You are King Life, free. How glorious is the freedom of life, truth. Most people try to comprehend the truth with a background of ideas caught up from Christianity with its changing interpretations. When one theory is worn out, a new one is created. One time it is hell and brimstone and the devil, and later this is modified and then cast aside altogether and something else takes its place, and so on from one thing to another. Or the background is Hinduism or Buddhism with their many gods and demigods and incantations, or Theosophy, where the intellect is filled with so many ideas that the mind becomes confused. In trying to comprehend the truth with this background, the reaction generally creates a conflict in the mind because of preconceived ideas. People try to make truth conform to these ideas and they judge everything on what they already believe to be true. These beliefs are only ideas, images in the mind, and must remain as such. But truth is none of these. It's beyond mind, greater than all creation, yet you are one with it. The majority pattern their lives after what they have heard or read or believed and say, this is the truth. Others do the same and say, no, this is the truth. Now, where can there be truth where there is confusion of thought? The whole thing is wrapped up in ideas and theories, and none of them is the truth. Truth is life. And you trying to find it in some system, philosophy, or creed? If so, your conception of truth is but a continual movement from one illusion to another illusion in the world of form and phenomena. Even a sinner and a saint are but illusions, the one only higher than the other in the world of illusion. Your cravings lead you from one illusion to another. You want to be something that will ensure your place in the eternal. So the craving leads you from one teacher to another teacher, or from one system to another system. And what you find is only form and phenomena, or the action of life, and not life itself. This goes on, and at each stage a pause is made. There's a feeling of satisfaction. You think you have found the truth, but only for a moment does this state exist. Shortly the hunt begins again, with renewed effort along the path of illusion. Again, I say, if you try to find the truth in the world of form and phenomena, you will fail. Know that you are the truth. It is freedom from all illusion you are really seeking. Know the world of illusion for what it is. Do not be deceived by it, thinking it is reality itself. It is but the form expressed in substance. When Jesus was teaching his disciples of the Father, Philip asked, Master, show us the Father. The Master replied, Philip, have I been with you this long while, and you know me, and you know not what I say to you? When you have seen me, you have seen the Father. I and the Father are one, meaning the life and expression in form, not the form itself. The cause being not seen is not recognized, yet it is the reality. On another occasion he said, What is it you have come out to see? A man? Meaning, cannot you see behind the form and there find reality? The outer man is nothing. It is the power behind him that is real. I of myself am nothing. It is the Spirit of the Father within me that doeth the work. Oh, my beloved one, know the life to be yourself. In this is the ecstasy of the eternal immortality. This everlasting reality can only be understood in the fullness of the present, not in some distant future which is but a passing fantasy. Reality cannot be imagined or fancied. That which can be explained is not truth. The joy and freedom of truth is spontaneous. It comes naturally, without effort, without introspection. It is the ever new joy, being perfect joy itself. It is sweet and silent in the completeness of your daily living. Living, acting spontaneously, is as natural as the breath of life. To understand this completeness, there must be non-attachment to ideas, beliefs, the past or future. For when you pattern your life on these, there is fear and conflict, which destroy true understanding, and you are held within the walls of a prison you yourself create. In the world of illusion, which includes creeds, dogmas, etc., you become irresponsible. On the one hand, you give up yourself to authority. You lose your individuality. You allow others to do your thinking for you spiritually. And on the other hand, you become like a wild beast fighting for your welfare and existence. To know reality, you must be entirely free in mind and heart from all authority, limitation, and imitation, from all cravings, both spiritual and material. You must strip yourself naked spiritually, mentally, and materially. Empty your mind and heart. If you look into them, you will find inherited theories of right and wrong. What is spiritual and what is not spiritual? The heart may be so filled with religion that there is no room for love, and the mind so filled with theories that there is no room for truth. Truth is. It does not have to be. What is necessary is an effort to keep the mind and heart free so that truth and love can manifest. They do when we free ourselves from concepts, theories, cravings, imitation, and limitation. The truth, life, is free and natural, and manifests itself without our personal effort. Consciousness and intelligence coordinating are one in the life which organizes the substance. And according to the image held in the consciousness, so is the form created. Life itself, being perfect in itself, is expressing itself. When we realize our oneness with the Father, consciousness, intelligence, and substance, the manifestor and the manifestation become one. One is real while the other is relative and changeable, but every change is dominated by a perfect love. The perfect will be established by its own power when we allow love to dominate every act, word, and thought, with our minds free for the complete expansion of ourselves in God. How inadequate are words in expressing the eternal reality of glorious life. Live it fully and freely, then you will know it. Lesson 2. Spirit is all, and form is constantly being expressed from spirit. That which is brought forth from spirit is spirit. Man does not walk by sight, but walks by faith. If you do not believe you can walk, you will not walk. The realization of this should bring home to you the truth of unless you believe, that one great fundamental principle. The conscious reality in the infinite mind of God is man. You, the Son of Man, the Son of God. God is the consciousness within you. God is the one consciousness permeating the whole of humanity, and you are the eternal concept held in the infinite mind. It is the realization of this consciousness in each individual that must be established. As the consciousness in each individual being is a concept in the infinite mind and is held in that mind, it is therefore the perfect idea. We have been perfectly conceived and are always held in the perfect mind of God as perfect beings. When certain people pass beyond the physical plane and enter into the next plane of consciousness, they may still suffer from the conditions under which they labored while in the physical body. But that is not a reality. It is only a concept that is held in the mind. When the healing power of the truth of their true existence becomes known, the false concept disappears, and the resurrection body which took on the pattern they held in their mind now takes on its perfect form. The idea of age belongs to the physical plane, but when the being gets an understanding of eternal youth and the consciousness of God within, then the resurrection body returns to a perfectly reformed, youthful body grown to maturity. Even the loss of a limb or other member has no permanent effect on the resurrection body. We are born again when we realize and recognize that we are one with the Father and that He has already conceived us. We must not bring forth untrue expressions. This is what the majority of people are doing every day by their thoughts, words, and actions. Even a word that is unkind is an untrue expression. Do you know what a word really means? Do you know that sound has color and form? That every form has a color and sound? That every audible sound has an invisible color, every visible color in an inaudible sound? Even our thoughts have form, color, and sound. You have formed the outer expression, but the inner also exists. Realize what your thoughts, words, and actions mean. When you understand the power of expression and know the truth, your knowledge adds power to your word and thought. The I am creates in the invisible world by the voice and by the thoughts. Even in the silence, we create sound, form, and color. When we bring forth untrue expressions, the being of the form is perfect, God, consciousness, intelligence, and substance. It is not the being that you have to change, but the form that the being has assumed. For consciousness creates form, and you have assumed a particular form which is untrue. Christ revealed this law so many times in his ministry of healing and teaching by removing false beliefs held in the consciousness of man. Still mind, be still. Let God within you speak. I am that I am. Still the mind and allow the perfect concept to be brought forth by God within. Still the personal mind. I am God. Be still. I am God within. Then you blend the greater with the smaller, and the outer becomes inner, and the inner becomes outer, both blended together. God is all there is, visible and invisible, and we are one with him. It is our belief in separation from him that causes sin, poverty, sickness, and death. Realize that heaven is a perfect state of consciousness and that hell is the reverse. Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Therefore, hell does not exist in reality. It only exists as a false concept in the mind of man, and you have it here if you accept it. God created all, filling the world with light. Let there be light is the spoken word of life, because divine consciousness exists in life and can express itself in any degree. You can never comprehend your own consciousness because as soon as you try to grasp it, it recedes further away from you, and what you are seeing is something external to yourself, and so it is to eternity. So it is with the highest, even the greatest archangels and artificers in the universe. God controls them through consciousness. Their consciousness is the moulding force to things external to themselves, yet while endeavouring to fathom their consciousness, it further recedes, and so it is with you. But by constant contemplation and aspiration, you find peace, bliss, and ever new joy in that consciousness. When you completely realize this consciousness, you are free, no longer controlled by external relative things or affected by them. This is the realization of truth, the true ecstasy of life. Some have said God created his universe so he could learn more and gain more power. How can the infinite learn more when he is omniscient? He does not need any more power because he is omnipotent. His intelligence is the intelligence in all things. The why of God we cannot question, that is beyond our comprehension. But the how of God we can grasp by understanding. The universe is unbounded, universes within an unbounded universe. There is no space or time. Time, 1,000,000 years is but the twinkling of an eye. How can there be time in eternity? We see the light of a star, we measure the distance. We find that the star is 100 million light years distant from the Earth. What does this mean? It means this, that the light you see travelling at the rate of 186,000 miles per second left that star 100 million years ago, and yet it is in the twinkling of an eye. But that light could not reach us unless there was something to convey it. Sound and light are conveyed in a similar manner. You could not hear a sound unless there was something to convey it. What is it that conveys this light and sound? It is ether. Ether fills all space, therefore it is ether that conveys light. The earth is modified ether. Ether is the basis of all matter and the substance in which all forms are built. So in this apparent space distance, 100 million light years, we have the same substance that conveys light and is the basis of all matter as we know it. And this is nothing more than modified ether as proved by modern science. What we see, hear, and feel is but action and reaction in the world of expression. We find ourselves reacting to the action of life, yet this is not life itself. Therefore, in reality, there is no space or separation. If there was space between us and that star, and in that space no ether, nothing, then the light would not reach us. Realize that nothing exists nowhere, and everything exists everywhere. Therefore, nothing does not exist in reality. It is only a mental concept. I want you to realize what a mental concept really means. It is an idea or image which you have produced in your mind. It may be true, and yet it may not be true. When we begin to analyze our concepts, we find that many have crystallized and set because we believe them to be true. And then we find ourselves supporting our ideas and concepts by argument, sometimes of a violent nature. The concept or idea we are supporting may have no foundation in truth whatsoever, and when fresh knowledge is brought to bear upon it, it may change. But thousands have lost their lives, many murdered or slain in cold blood because of crystallized concepts held immovable in the minds of many people. The secret of growth and understanding is to have a flexible mind so that we can receive new knowledge and discard old worn-out concepts that are hindering the progress of humanity. In our present plane of consciousness, we reach it to our immediate surroundings through our physical senses. I will endeavour to show you the different planes, the smallness of the earth plane on which we are functioning, and the immensity of the outer planes. I hope the following diagram will give you meaning I wish to convey. So there's an image here, I'll hold it up after reading. The greater planes interpenetrate the smaller and support them while they extend beyond them. Sun that shines on the earth plane which we are conscious of. So this is obviously not a flat earth book whatsoever, but I'll hold that up there. You may screenshot that later. The higher planes interpenetrate the lower, yet extend further beyond. So you see the plane known as the earth plane is the smallest and vibrates at the lowest rate, although made out of the same substance. You have within you the elements of all the planes, and as each state of consciousness is entered, you get a greater understanding of the universe. It is possible to go even beyond this planet as our consciousness expands. Consciousness always recedes, yet we become personally conscious of more of the wonderful universe of God, which becomes external to our consciousness as we progress. This will explain how even the greatest find that consciousness always recedes while they gain more and more love, wisdom, and power through understanding. Again I say, blessed is he who hath neither seen nor heard, yet knoweth himself to be the truth. We migrate from the earth plane to the greater earth or ethereal planes, from the lower to the higher. These are perhaps all invisible to you at present. The sun that you see is that portion of it that vibrates to the earth plane. You are conscious on this plane. The other planes are not visible to you yet. The light that exists upon this earth does not exist upon the higher planes. There is a greater sun, a much more powerful sun with a greater radiance which extends beyond our sun. It tells you in the Bible that the sun does not shine by day nor the moon by night, but a sun that always shines. These vibrations are too high for you to see on the physical plane. Light vibrations of the physical plane are from 450 trillion to 750 trillion vibrations per second, or 34 to 64 waves to the inch. Beyond these, there exist vibrations into eternity which are invisible to us. I want you to keep in mind the perfect substance out of which all things have been created and which exists everywhere. For in it, physical consciousness is the smallest part of all. The material plane is the minutest plane. Yet all other planes interpenetrate it and extend beyond it. If I gather around me some primitive savages and endeavour to explain to them about wireless and telegraphy, they would not understand me because they have no knowledge of these modern conveniences. If I endeavour to explain existence on the other planes of consciousness to those who do not understand, a somewhat similar state would exist. If you could visit those planes consciously, you would comprehend the truth that there is only one substance and that in these planes similar conditions exist, yet greater, becoming more perfect as your consciousness unfolds. No matter what substance you see or feel, it has a perfect basis. And out of this one substance, all has been made. As your consciousness expands to the higher planes, you know more, you understand more. You see this particular plane of material substance, which is the grossest and lowest manifestation of the consciousness, as a shadow. You can penetrate it. It is like a cloud of mist. It is no longer real to you now. Your consciousness penetrates all the planes, but you are unaware of it, yet it is possible to become conscious of it. This is the progress of mankind. This is the difference between real knowing and intellectual knowing. Let the divine impersonal consciousness permeate your personal consciousness and limitations disappear. Love and peace be with you. Lesson 3. I'll let you have a look at this image while I have a quick break. Now we come to the particular planes of consciousness. See how the consciousness recedes, and at the same time that it recedes, it expands. Yet it is the same always. What we are aware of is the action and reaction of life in all its expressions. This must be kept in mind when studying this lesson. Where does your consciousness come from? Your consciousness comes from God. Life organizes the substance from which all things are created, and God's consciousness is the ruling factor, the will which creates the mold in which all forms are held. Therefore, you are held in his mind, and his consciousness is in you. You are held in the divine mind, the perfect substance and intelligence, in which is the highest of all planes of consciousness. Although you now are personally functioning in this particular plane of consciousness, the earth plane or material plane, everything you see, hear, and feel are just vibrations corresponding to this plane. I'm just having a quick look at this center of consciousness diagram, the doorway to the infinite intelligence and power, 3 in 1, second spiritual Beyond that, you do not perceive, because your senses are not attuned to the higher rates of vibration. Therefore, the light that you see is the lesser light, which vibrates from 450 trillion to 750 trillion vibrations per second. The sounds you hear vibrate from 30,000 to 32,000 vibrations per second. Consequently, your present conscious reactions are very limited. Yet every reaction makes a definite impression on your mind, which interpenetrates all the planes of manifestation. All your experiences are registered in your mind. Your brain is just the instrument. Your mind interpenetrates your brain. You have within all the different planes of consciousness, although you are not aware of them. Your mind penetrates them all and records all the reactions, yet your consciousness goes beyond all creation into the realm of truth. The first and second planes are known as the psychic planes or astral world. You will not stay long in these planes because they are nearest the earth and belong to those people who are known as earthy people, who live materialistic lives and are weighed down by these vibrations. They have no knowledge of the truth, and until they do, their consciousness does not expand. Number one plane is the underworld of the psychic plane. Those who sojourn here are those from the underworld of the earth plane. How do they overcome these conditions? The only way is by the purifying fire. What is the purifying fire? It is remorse. Burning remorse that exists in the mind of the individual with the desire to do better. Then the consciousness is able to expand to number two plane. They are now conscious of greater reactions. They are not dead as they thought they were, for they are consciously reacting to something, as you do now, a knowing of being alive. But this is not life. These are only reactions to certain stimuli. The expected oblivion has not yet arrived and never will, for the consciousness is in life and always recedes. Some are conscious that a change has taken place. Some think they are dreaming, and others act as if they still existed on the earth plane. They are still trapped because they do not know nor understand. Their consciousness does not expand, and so they are held in the prison they have already created for themselves. The longer the time wasted upon the earth in materialistic ideas of a low nature, the longer the time they must spend on those unpleasant planes. This gives them time for reflection. There is weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. It is a matter of development, a matter of expansion of consciousness, and it is this I want you to recognize now. You must grasp the truth, otherwise your consciousness cannot expand beyond limitation, imitation, creeds, dogmas, even philosophies. The truth shall set you free. Living every moment of life fully, spontaneously, that is the freedom of truth. In number two plane, we find people leading a similar life to what they led on earth. In this plane, all the different dogmas and creeds exist. There they still find separation, because their consciousness has not yet expanded to the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. You will pass through these two planes because you have grasped that truth is and lived it. You have grasped what truth is and lived it. This day you shall be with me in paradise. We find some of the bishops, parsons, priests, etc. on the second plane. They think they have found their heaven because dogma and creed, which are separation, are the height of their ambition. Consequently, they are narrow and have no expansion of consciousness. But this is not the case with all. Many are truly great souls. Although they keep within the bounds of the church, their knowledge goes beyond it. Yet still they are bound, even if the chain is golden, it binds just the same. Those living in the planes beyond, planes of consciousness, not places, wear clothes and do similar things to yourself. The clothes you wear are but a modified form of the one substance. All forms are brought forth by consciousness, and therefore consciousness creates form on all planes, out of the one substance. Teachers come from the higher planes to the lower planes to teach. The desire to advance, to expand their consciousness is created in the minds of those on lower planes, so that they are gradually lifted into a higher realm of consciousness and gain a greater number of reactions. Their consciousness becomes more expansive, so they reach the first mental plane, or plane number 3. The first mental plane of consciousness is known as paradise. The two thieves on the cross were of different types. One was a thief because he stole a loaf of bread to feed his children, and the other a thief, robber, murderer, who would kill for the sake of what he could get. You are not known by your outer garments, but by your inner garments. The vibrations are emanating from you all the time. A beautiful rose colour, tinged in blue and gold, was seen emanating from one man, and from the other a murky dark red with dark green and black circles. One rose to paradise because he vibrated the colour of paradise, while the other would remain in Hades until such time as he purified himself. Therefore the Master knew when he said, "You will be in paradise with me this very day." There are many today who have suffered for breaking the laws made by man and his organisations to maintain their selfish interests intact. and yet they are glorified in the sight of God. It is in this plane of consciousness where you glimpse that one is all and all is one. There are no denominations, creeds, nor dogmas there. It is the beginning of the understanding of the one fatherhood and the one brotherhood. You find all the different nationalities living as brothers, and colour is no bar. They know and understand that there is but one life, one God, one Father, and all are his children. It is a matter of consciousness that counts now, not a matter of skin or clothes or social standing. All this must be left behind. You must cast these things aside as you would a worn-out suit of clothes. It is expansion of consciousness that is now desired. A larger number of conscious reactions are obtained as the expansion of consciousness becomes greater. You now begin to learn to use your true God power. There are schools and colleges in these higher planes of consciousness greater than our schools and colleges. You wonder at this? Have you not the same substance to use as they have? Just the same substance, only different in degree. Whatever comes from spirit is spirit, whether in a modified form or in a higher vibration. The only difference is in the vibration. This earth plane could be a most wonderful place to live in if all truly accepted the one basic reality of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, and understood that there is no separation, that one cannot live unto oneself, and that each and every one is responsible to the other. And those who have passed beyond this plane of consciousness could mingle with you, and you could see them and talk to them. Then you would realize that death has no sting, but is the entrance to a greater life. This would be heaven upon earth, and it eventually will be. It is the ideal state for man on this plane. The psychic world will disappear, and our migration would be to the first mental plane. How is it possible to bring this about? Our consciousness must be raised so that the senses which we have at present shall be superseded by our higher senses. These we have already, but not realizing nor recognizing them, we do not use them. The laws of life which exist to us at present will be superseded by similar, yet higher laws. In the fourth plane, you begin to realize and recognize more of the truth. You begin to use the power of God within you, and you become a joyful worker in God's universe, knowing that separation is not a reality, but only a mental concept in man's mind and has no foundation in truth. Truth is perfection, because perfection is the foundation of God's universe and is the natural state of mankind. The fifth plane is a further extension into a greater state of consciousness. All the reactions you had in the previous planes are still existent in your mind because your mind interpenetrates all these planes. You are still experiencing through your senses, similar senses to the old, but greatly superseding them. The expansion of your consciousness is now greater, and your emotions become less modified, greater. You do not become emotional in a physical sense, but your soul rejoices as the gloriousness of God is revealed to you. God has glorified you by his consciousness, his knowledge, his wisdom, and love. And this is your emotion, the wonder and the grandeur of expansion in him. It is a similar universe, but magnificently greater and more perfect. Most people have no comprehension of these beautiful and most glorious experiences. Could I describe them to you? No, they are indescribable. If the streets were paved with gold and all the buildings were jeweled and every window shone like a star and every person an angel, yes, it is even more glorious than that. The temples of the fifth plane are temples of meditation, and as you meditate there appears a greater glory from a higher state of consciousness. A light surrounds you, and in that light a higher form of consciousness, of peace, of harmony, of love appears, and you are able to get expression through it. You are seeing expansion of yourself through a greater and lovelier one. You now seem to think and act as one. After your meditation is over, the higher one disappears, but has left you with a better understanding of the higher consciousness, and your one endeavor is to reach it and tell the glory to others. And this is the glory of God that is within you. As you progress further into the higher state, your consciousness now in the sixth plane, you're able to understand more of God, more of his glory, more of his universe. Your consciousness becomes more expansive. Most glorious of all temples are here, and you have the opportunity of further meditation and further experiences. I see, the soul says, I see, and reaches the glory of the consciousness of the Christ which permeates the whole of humanity, because Christ is God's and God's is Christ's. You are joint heirs in God's perfect universe. God the manifester and his manifestation are one. Yet God is greater than his manifestation. The one is eternal, while the other is transient. The outer changes while the inner remains the same always, and it is the same on all planes. You are still you. These outer garments and the body of flesh pass away. They are only a means to an end, instruments through which we express ourselves. The consciousness of God is being expressed from within, and form is transformed through consciousness. In a previous lesson, you were told that the physical body of the Master was dispersed into the ether. Why did it disperse? Because the atomic weight of the body was raised above the rate of the Earth's vibrations, and in the darkness of the tomb, the dematerialization of the body took place. But the resurrection body still remained intact. The physical body dispersed into the ether, into the body of all bodies, the great body. So shall the resurrection body also disperse into the more purified plane of substance. And just as the resurrection body disperses into its plane of substance, so will your mind, in which you hold all your experiences, dissolve into its plane of substance, for you no longer need them. And then you will know all, because you will become one with the divine, not separate, but of the same consciousness, of the same love, wisdom, and power. You will be able to say, I see, in reality. From perfection you have come, to perfection you shall return. Peace be with you. Lesson 4. For an understanding of the control of form and phenomena through action and reaction, I must now explain to you about concentration and breathing. Perfect concentration and attention gives you control of all action and reaction, and one way of obtaining this is by breathing through certain centers in your spine, which should be developed in the proper order. These centers represent the various planets, or rather, the various vibrations that emanate from the planets. To be perfectly developed, harmony must be established, and no one center should be developed more than another. Every planetary vibration is represented in your being and has a definite expression through you. Every planetary vibration is harmonious. It is only when you allow inharmony to exist that you deflect the harmonious vibrations. Out of the Logos, the complete sun forming the 7 sun planes, comes forth all the elements and vibrations expressed through the different planets, and you are affected by them through the centers in your spine. The different vibrations act on the interpenetrating bodies where they have their root vibration and permeate each of these bodies, which interpenetrate and support the physical one. The divine consciousness is the controlling power and harmonizes and controls all the vibrations through the mother, the divine intelligence. The most important center is situated in the dome of the head. The next in importance is situated in the forehead, the next in the back of the head, and so on down the spine. These centers must be carefully developed in rotation, commencing at the bottom of the spine and working upwards to the top of the head. Each center represents a different vibration, and each has its own color as represented in the spectrum, commencing with red at the bottom of the spine and ending with white at the top of the head, where all the colors merge into one. The 7 colors in rotation are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, mauve, white. They represent the 7 centers representing the 7 bodies, which represent the 7 planes of consciousness. Even the highest plane of substance you have within you, although at present you are not aware of it. Through these centers you have an affinity to every part of the universe, including the supreme consciousness of God, Om, through Christ the Lord within. Ether, air, fire, water, and earth make up the 5 elements, and the father and mother, which are the positive and negative, interpenetrating them all, make up the 7 principles underlying all matter. In each planet, the vibration of one of the elements predominates, and the individual is affected according to the position of the planets are in. These vibrations merge, pass, and oppose each other as the planets move around the sun. And as the Earth comes in contact with the different combinations, so are we affected according to the predominating element in us. But there need not be any inharmonious condition. It is when we are out of harmony that we fail to control these vibrations. They must be harmonized and balanced within us by our own spiritual power. Thus we control the forces of the universe within our own body. Don't you see that harmonizing these vibrations within yourself gives you control of the elements? All vibrations are held in the one spirit substance. All vibrations have colors, and just as elements can be held in one solution, so all colors are held in the one color, white. In the atmosphere, all colors exist. Things vibrating at different rates reflect their corresponding colors. One of the elements predominates in each of the different planets and reflects its color through it, and each center in the spine attracts the element corresponding to it in vibration and color. In commencing the development of these centers, you must start with the lowest at the bottom of the spine. Number 1, red. The next is number 2, orange, in the small of the back, opposite the navel. Number 3, yellow, is in the solar plexus, where there are two masses of nerve plexi on each side of the spine. Is situated about the middle of the back. The next centre, number 4, green, is between the shoulders, in line with the heart. And the next, number 5, blue, is behind the throat, base of the skull. Number 6, mauve, is in the forehead between the eyes, and number 7, white, is at the dome of the head, where all must be raised and controlled by the consciousness. This centre links with the universal consciousness above the dome of the head. It is most necessary to develop the centres in this order, for when once you commence to raise the vibration of each centre, you must send it up the spine to the next centre. These exercises also develop your power of concentration. The best time to develop these centres is at sunrise, sunset, midday, and midnight. At sunrise, commence with the left nostril. At sunset, commence with the right nostril. Midday and midnight, either nostril. As the sun rises, it spreads the positive rays over the earth. This is the positive period of the day and is neutralized by noon. By breathing first through the left nostril, any inharmonious positive vibrations are eliminated, because if any positive electronic disturbance is set up by the positive rays of the sun, it is neutralized by the negative, the ida, in the left nostril. At sunset, when the negative rays represented by the moon are spread over the earth, any disturbance in the negative electronic vibrations is neutralized by the positive, the pingala, in the right nostril. The negative rays are neutralized by midnight, and at sunrise, the positive rays are completely in action again. These exercises must be preceded by breath that cleanse the nervous system, and before commencing, you should communicate with me if you've not been instructed in the classes. The cleansing breath is done by inhaling and exhaling alternately through each nostril very slowly, with little or no pause between each breath. The developing breathing exercises are done as follows. Breathe in through the left nostril, counting 4 heartbeats, and at the same time, follow down the left side of the spine to the lowest centre. Concentrate on this centre while holding the breath, counting 16 heartbeats. Then exhale through the right nostril, counting 8, concentrating on the centre. Inhale through the right nostril, counting 4, at the same time following down the right side of the spine. Concentrate again on the same centre, holding the breath for 16 heartbeats. Now, the positive and negative forces are balanced in this centre. Exhale through the left nostril, counting 8, concentrating on sending this balanced force up the centre of the spine to the next centre. This is called a complete breath. This method enables the balanced force to proceed upwards. Continue as before with the left nostril, taking a complete breath through each centre, moving upwards till the balanced force reaches the 7th centre in the dome of the head. Now inhale through the left nostril for 4 heartbeats, carrying the breath down the left side of the spine to the lower centre. While holding the breath for 16 heartbeats, raise this force up the spine from centre to centre, counting 1 at the lower centre, raising it to the 2nd centre on 2, the 3rd centre on 3, and so on. At 7, the force reaches the dome of the head. Hold it there till you have counted 16. Inhale through the right nostril for 8 heartbeats, concentrating on this centre. Do a similar breath, inhaling through the right nostril and moving upwards from centre to centre as before, concentrating on the dome of the head again until the 16 heartbeats are complete. Now all the forces are neutralized and balanced and are under the control and command of your will. You now exhale through the left nostril, counting 8, at the same time opening up the 1,000-petaled lotus in the dome of the head to meet the Christ principle, or divine intelligence, which is situated in the centre above your head. Breathe naturally now and inhale, counting 7, concentrating on absorbing the Christ power or mother principle through the 1,000-petaled lotus. Holding the breath for 7 heartbeats, you should be fully conscious of the divine life pouring into you, realizing and recognizing your oneness with it, Father, Mother, Child. Then exhale, counting 7, and feel the mother or Christ principle charging your whole being. Do this breath 3 times and you will be filled with tremendous power. The spine must be held erect while doing this exercise. A special posture is necessary, and those desiring to develop themselves must first learn to control their thoughts. Sit quietly in a straight-back chair and watch your thoughts carefully. Check all negative or destructive thoughts. Concentrate on Om. In this state, with your buttocks firm and your spine straight, you may commence, but do not do more than 1 complete set of breaths to begin with. Later, you may do 2 or more. When you can control these forces, you can control the elements as well. You have the power within you to accomplish what you will. These balanced forces pass up the center of the spine through what is called the Sushumna, which terminates in the dome of the head, where all power is concentrated under the conscious will. This center in the dome of the head is known as the thousand-petaled lotus, which opens to the rays of the infinite intelligence. Behind the right nostril is the pingala, which picks up the positive electronic force and carries it down the right side of the spine. Behind the left nostril is the ida, which carries the negative electronic force down the left side of the spine. These forces are balanced in the particular center being developed and proceed up the sushumna. These nerves are not visible, nor are they known to the anatomist. Yet without them, you would not live in the body. It is important that you should never allow this balanced force to go downwards, but always raise it upwards. Some people unknowingly develop their kundalini, and not knowing how to control the released energies, find themselves in difficulties. Tremendous energies are released through these centers, and they must be raised up and spiritualized. Your power of concentration now becomes a power indeed, with all this energy under your will. This is the great secret of the masters. If you wish, you may commence using this power constructively in your work, etc. I use it mostly in teaching and healing and dispersing inharmonious conditions. You have no idea of the power that is within you until you unfold it. This is the power the masters use. These mysteries were guarded secrets and were only revealed to the few. If you practice every morning at sunrise and every evening at sunset, I will guarantee that in 1 year, provided you work properly and have the right thoughts in your mind, you will be able to do many things that at present you could not believe possible. By this method, you may be able to visit the higher places. It is the secret of gaining knowledge while still living in the physical body. This instruction is generally given under the personal supervision of a master, being a quicker way to get results. By deep spiritual contemplation, opening up to the infinite intelligence, the Mother or Christ consciousness above the head, the same results can be obtained, and is sometimes much the better way for the majority of people. Meditation and divine reasoning fortify faith, which is the key to all things. Supreme understanding of the truth comes when we absolutely realize and recognize our oneness with the Father. Then the Mother does the work unhindered, and the nature is transformed without effort. And an effort to sustain this state is necessary in the world of form and limitation. I want to impress upon you to be guarded against giving this knowledge out indiscriminately, as it could be the means of doing much harm by destructive action. The same power can be used for evil ends. So please take note. When working without a master, you must remember never to hold an evil nor a depressed thought, as you are liable to set these vibrations in motion and injure yourself and others. You must hold peace, harmony, and love in your mind. It is spiritual development that you must seek, not control of the forces. Otherwise, you will be chained to them and release becomes more difficult. The path of the great masters is detachment from all phenomena and desire. Only by so doing can absolute control of all phenomena and desire be obtained. This is hard for those in the West to do because their development is through expression. Nevertheless, we must detach ourselves from the external world and see it for what it is, not a reality in itself, nor having any power of its own. See it as a means to an end, to be controlled and used as a good sculptor would use his tools to fashion his work to completeness. The tool has no real value except in the hands of the experienced craftsman. These two prayers you should repeat earnestly, the first one before you commence each practice and the second one after you have completed it. It only takes a few minutes, but these few minutes make all the difference between success and failure. Loving Father, this is thy holy temple. Make it a perfect dwelling place from which radiates thy love, wisdom, and power to all thy children. Glorify me with thy great healing power, thy inspired wisdom and divine love, that I may glorify thee. Open my eyes and ears that I may see and hear, and my mind that I may receive, that I may become a better and more perfect instrument for thy great and glorious work. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. After you have finished, you will say this: Thou great loving essence of all goodness, whose child I am, strengthen me in knowledge and show me more clearly the way. I love thee for thy tenderness to me. I trust thee utterly and feel thee near me always. I am safe in thy hands and know thou shalt guide me aright. Then picture the Christ just above your head and endeavor to draw the Christ into you to purify your whole being. Do not say these prayers parrot fashion. Make every word live in you. You will then learn what your words really do. You must learn not to express a word lightly, because wherever you express a word, you express a form. You must not misuse your power, for the reaction will be greater than before you gained this power and understanding. What you hold fast in this plane is also held in the plane above. If you progress diligently, it will not be long before real expression of consciousness begins. It will no longer be an intellectual understanding, but a knowing in reality. Remember, it is spiritual development and release from the world of phenomena that you are seeking, not the control of the forces. This control comes as a natural sequence when you find your true consciousness. When you actually know where your consciousness is, all is possible to you. It is not an intellectual knowing, but a knowing in reality, where all the phenomenal world is objectified to you, even the spiritual world of phenomena. But all this is only a means to an end, not the end itself. To know that you are now God made manifest, to believe with a faith that cannot be moved by doubt, anxiety, or circumstances, and to act in accordance with your belief, is to live abundantly, because faith without works is dead, and work without faith has no life. When this faith is firmly established deep in your soul, then the light that lighteth the soul, yea, even the world, will shine in you. A peace shall come, a knowing that all is well. God is omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence, and love is the only emotion. God is love and moves by love alone. I and the Father are one, the Master says. You must also proclaim it. Peace be with you. And though this isn't meant to be a chat, there's been a few comments put there. Slam-free poetry. Yes, mate, I'm just reading from a book, A Higher Power We Can Use. So thanks for dropping by. I'm up to lesson 5. I'm already halfway through the book, which isn't bad considering. I wonder if it will show how long I've been going for. Oh yeah, an hour 11. I might actually get this whole book read in this one sitting, which will be good. There's another diagram here, which I'll hold it up so you can sort of have a look if it's going to focus. Hopefully it's not backwards as it is on my screen. Lesson 5. The universe is rhythmically under the direction of the infinite intelligence. We see the law in action, and when we act with law, we become the law and are not affected by it. I and the Father are one. The elements respond, and the word becomes form. The following diagram shows the elements and what they represent. The 5 elements, Veka, represented by. Acacia, ether, white and violet, represents space, hearing, and is made by a dotted circle. 2, Vahu, air. The color blue and green represents locomotion, represented by touch and the full circle. Tajas, fire. The color red and orange represents expansion, represented by sight and the Star of David, or the tetrahedron, star tetrahedron. Apas, water, white and green, represents contraction, represented by taste, and is imaged by a half circle. Prithvi, earth, yellow, represents cohesion, represented by smell, and is imaged in a diamond. I'll show them again in case you want to have another quick peek. The blue sky, you will note, is the color of the element Vayu, air, and it is the color of this element that you see. All elements exist in everything, but in every different thing, a different element predominates, and the various combinations produce the many shades and colors in the different substances. These symbols represent certain qualities and quantities. Einstein, with his mathematical universe, is only repeating in a different way what the ancients knew and understood through their symbols and numbers. You can now understand how everything you see and touch is temporary, disappears, and changes into something else. Not only do these elements exist in the sun, but also in the various planets given birth by the sun. Everything has a positive and a negative aspect. No matter how small the division of substance, you cannot separate the positive and the negative. The atom and the electron has a positive and a negative aspect, and their interaction gives motion and manifestation. The positive and the negative represent the Father, Mother, God in all things, and with them all things are created. Ether is the bowl in which the elements mingle together to form their different combinations. Let us now look at the planets from a point of view of vibration. Take Mars, for instance. Mars has all the elements, but the element of expansion, tahas or fire, predominates. Mars sets up this vibration among the other elements when it is in a certain position at a certain time. It is this vibration of expansion in the etheric structure of matter that causes earthquakes and the different expansion troubles. These vibrations expand the ether, and when the element Tajas, expansion, Mars, is in conjunction, opposes or squares the element of Prithvi, cohesion, Saturn, it is easily understood what happens. Vayu, air, locomotion, is represented by Mercury, whose symbol is wings, the most ancient symbol of motion. It is our fastest moving planet, being nearest the Sun. Tajas and Vayu in conjunction, squaring or opposing, cause lightning, storms, etc. Expansion is in the air. Elements forming a sextile, semi-square, and trine also have their effect in different ways. It is easy to understand the causes and effects when we understand the elements. The moon controls water and the tides. In it predominates that particular element which affects our earth, and in fact every human being, enormously, the element of apas, water, contraction. Neptune also possesses this element, but its nature is more ethereal and dominates the invisible aspect. The 5 elements make up every organ and part of your body. They are held to their particular task by the father-mother principle which unites them in their action and reaction. This is automatic in nature, but can be deflected by inharmonious vibrations set up by ourselves. And there's an image right there. Which obviously has its purpose. The foregoing symbol shows all the elements in one. The dotted circle represents the ether, the bowl in which they are all mixed. The circle represents the motion in the ether, air. The triangles, expansion, fire. The half moon, contraction, water. And the diamond, cohesion, earth. The cross represents the positive and negative in and through all of them. Ancient law. 25,000 years ago in the ancient Gobi Desert, a great civilization existed. They were so far advanced in their knowledge that they were able to commune with those on the very highest planes of consciousness. They had no churches, but they had temples. These temples were not places of worship, but temples of wisdom, where counsel was taken and where communion with the highest intelligences was obtained. Everyone worked in perfect harmony because the truth was known to them, and all contributed to the whole. There was no poverty or unhappiness. Everything was as perfect so far as we can imagine could be upon the material plane. After a time, dissension set in, and certain groups were formed. Thus began separation and inharmony. This separation was the beginning of the downfall of that civilization, and gradually, as they separated into groups, kings and armies flourished until discord extended right through the whole people. It is said they were in advance of our civilization in knowledge by at least 2,000 years. They had methods of driving machinery and methods of lighting that are not yet known to us today. They also had means of locomotion far in advance of our methods. They were able to use the natural forces. But as separation set in, this information and knowledge faded away. The central council dispersed, and communion with the higher planes was then impossible. This was the downfall of that civilization. The masters of the East still hold many of their secrets. If it were not for selfishness, think of what would be ours today. Yet separation at least has enabled us to understand imperfection, has enabled us to understand the falseness of separation and what it brings in its train: wars, pestilence, disease. It brings all the inharmonious conditions that exist among mankind today. The elements are harmonious, but we can destroy this harmony by our inharmonious conditions, thoughts, and emotions. We create a distortion in the elements and upset the perfect balance. Thus, civilization brings upon itself troubles and difficulties. God has never brought destruction upon anyone. It is our work to harmonize the elements by keeping harmony within ourselves. We are becoming tired of separation, of those conditions we have created by our own inharmonious vibrations. Deep down, we are beginning to feel the pinch. They say that certain dictators are now under the vibration of Mars, under the vibration of expansion, and are dominated by the element Tajas, being born when these vibrations were dominant. Although they have all the other elements within them, the element of fire, expansion, is predominant, and immediately Mars comes into a certain position, it sets in operation these particular vibrations. Dictators could be really great men if they would but harness these vibrations and direct them into their proper constructive channels. How can one control the elements? I've already given you the secret. by harmonizing the various elements in your own being through the form of breathing I've explained in a previous lesson, or by keeping your mind and body in perfect harmony, by not allowing even an inharmonious thought to exist, by aspiring to the highest spiritual source so that love, wisdom, and power develop in their proper proportion to guide one's own destiny and the destiny of others. Lesson 6, V1. I think that means it's time for a wee sip of port. And since the bottle's nearly empty, we'll dispense with the glass. Not a bad port, considering it's only $4.99 at Aldi. Page 80 already, it's not bad, eh? It is excellent to have an ideal and live it. When you hold to your ideal, you grow into that ideal until it becomes manifest. But when ideals are limited or outgrown, they become a hindrance and prevent growth. Have an ideal, but know that processes that will enable you to reach the various highest. Let me repeat that sentence. Have an ideal, but know the processes that will enable you to reach the very highest of your ideals. The most necessary ideal is the ideal of a perfect substance and intelligence, the ideal of a perfect consciousness, the ideal of a perfect universe, the ideal of a perfect life. Keep this deep in your soul always, because it is your foundation. And any other ideal that you may have will not be limited nor a hindrance to you, but will be an ideal within an ideal, as it were, and supported by it. Before you can have activity in the physical plane, you must have activity in the superphysical planes. Before that activity becomes a material fact, it must first be a mental fact. Everything exists in the superphysical before it manifests itself in the physical. There are different theories on evolution, some of them purely material and incomplete. Therefore, we cannot rely on them. The highest teaching comes from the spiritual world. It is divinely interpreted and is not merely man's imaginings perceived through his physical senses. God created everything. Of him all things are made. God held in his infinite mind a being, Lord of the earth, in which his consciousness manifested. This being ordained certain working qualities and limits to 3 artificer principles. So the artificer principle of the mineral world was created, and under it and through it all mineral activity took place. But its work was limited to this sphere. So also was created a higher artificer principle, through which all vegetation was created, and another still higher through which all animals were created. Yet these also were limited. The substance in its essence was now conditioned through these artificer principles. This now prepared the plane into which the divine children would be born. These beings came forth from the Logos, having the consciousness of the infinite within them. Thus God breathes into man the breath of his life, and he becomes a living soul, not limited, but with divine consciousness and free will to choose. The mineral cannot raise itself up, but must be raised by the vegetable. Likewise, the vegetable must be raised by the animal, and the animal conditioned substance is spiritualized by the divine inhabitants. Thus, the substance returns to its original state of perfection, free of all conditions. Your work is threefold. You raise the conditioned substance, you gain your experience by doing so, and you gain your self-consciousness by the reaction to these experiences in the world of matter. This self-consciousness must be expansive, merging into the whole form which it arose. The personal becomes the impersonal. I and the Father become one consciously. You are born of the Father, Mother, God, Spirit, incarnated in the physical garment which has in it all the animal instincts and the power to propagate, to bring forth spirits in the same garb. You are created in God's own image. You are held in his consciousness, and it is the consciousness of God that is in you. You could not talk of the God power unless it were in you. The animal is not conscious of this God power because it is limited, but you are not limited. You are a spirit clothed in a body, and your work now is to obtain knowledge of the laws by reacting to them, and so gain experience and self-consciousness. When you violate the laws, you bring forth imperfection, but this gives you a knowledge and understanding of the opposite, perfection. You are conscious of yourself, self-conscious, because you are reacting to things external to yourself. They exist to you and are held as concepts in your mind, and this gives you a feeling of separation. Without a feeling of separation, you could have no knowledge of unity, and without knowing imperfection, you could have no knowledge of perfection. But the perfection of reality cannot be perceived by man's mind, for when you perceive something, you have perceived what it is. You cannot perceive the reality because it is beyond your perception. What we perceive in our imagination is not perfection of reality, only an idea of it. But to know that it is self-satisfying and complete. It is. I am that I am. I and the Father are one. When you take in food, you raise it in vibration. It is spiritualized by contact with your spiritual power and passes into the atmosphere through your aura. It is the same substance that was taken from the ground, only you have raised its vibration and dispersed it into the atmosphere. Just as you take the substance of this particular plane into yourself and raise it, so do those living in the invisible planes take this raised substance and raise it to a higher state. And it is absorbed into the progressive planes, it is raised higher and higher, until it passes back into the perfect substance from which it came. You will progress from this state of consciousness to a higher and higher state until you eventually reach the highest vibration of substance, consciousness in God, where separation does not exist. From perfection you have come, and to perfection you will return. Keep the ideal in your mind always of the perfect consciousness, perfect intelligence, perfect substance, and perfect life. And although you may be in material conditions at the present time, you will understand the process that will enable you to cooperate with God, working in his vineyard of human souls, pruning and guiding the branches so that the eternal life in the vine shall bring forth the perfect fruit. For in him we live and move and have our being. Peace be with you. Lesson 7. That chapter was shorter because that means I can have more beer. Lesson 7 says, the power to heal can only be obtained by learning to trace things from their source. Supremacy over disease is obtained by the degree of understanding that it does not come from God. God created all out of one perfect substance, and we are the perfect consciousness of God within that perfect substance. Therefore, we have power to eliminate all that is imperfect. The substance out of which your body has been created is a perfect substance. Everything you see, all substance you're aware of, is only the same substance in a modified form, just another aspect of the same thing. So therefore, everything has a perfect foundation, and perfection is your natural state. And because it is your natural state, it is the only reality. This is one of the main facts to remember in healing. All inharmony and imperfection must pass away. But harmony and perfection, which are the basis of everything, can never pass away because they are real and have their foundation in the perfect substance out of which all things are made. If you place yourself in a state of harmony by realizing your oneness with God, healing is a natural sequence. When you're in a state of inharmony, you deflect the harmonious vibrations, and the result, of course, you are aware of. These vibrations are received internally and are expressed externally through the outer garment. When the perfect image God created is held in your consciousness, the form changes accordingly. The superphysical structure is always affected before the physical structure. The change begins within and moves outwardly. And when all inharmony and limitation are eliminated from the consciousness, the perfect manifests without effort and is your natural state. Your mind and brain impenetrate one another and act together, and they have the quality of receiving and recording any object that the eye conveys to them. Are you going to accept everything you see as a reality, or are you going to look upon it as something temporary, as a false concept that has no existence in reality? If you accept a thing as a reality, then it will be registered in your mind as such because you believe it to be so. But if you, while you still see it, deny the fact that it is a reality, you immediately have the opportunity of realizing the perfect state, which is often the opposite of what you see. When you have received a picture and fixed it, as you do with a film, the picture is again projected. The vibrations of what you have fixed in your mind continue to express themselves outwardly. It may be a false concept where you may have received and registered a false condition which is reflected in your own outer structure because you allowed it to manifest. But that is not to say that God created it. The perfect mind does not hold any imperfect things. It holds no imperfection whatsoever. Do you realize that? How could the perfect hold any imperfection? If the perfect realized any imperfection, it would be imperfect. Your mind and brain have the capacity of reproducing the vibrations received and projecting them out again, and you see the picture the eye has conveyed. You have received it, you are now expressing it through the inner vision. The picture is in your mind. You are reproducing the same picture through your mind and brain, and according to the intensity of the emotion attached to it, so does it manifest. If you hold off the unreal, the real produces itself by its own God-given power. The divine intelligence manifests the perfect image. It is so important in this life that you do not accept everything you see as an actual reality. Although the outer body may be affected through inharmonious vibrations in the atomic structure, there is no definite or permanent effect upon the resurrection body. If you realize the divine, perfect image within strongly enough, you will manifest it on all planes. Most people are always visualizing imperfect things and expressing them through their inner vision. What else can they expect but that their outer forms be affected by these expressions and imaginings? Don't you know that matter is modified ether? Yeah, mate, I'm doing a reading. Thanks, mate. We must recognize the subtleness of the power within us. It brings forth what we often do want, but always what we think deeply. Our safety lies in holding ourselves up to the divine light. The power of the Spirit harmonizes all the vibrations and reproduces the perfect so that we can project out again, this time through the inner vision, the perfect picture held by the divine consciousness. The camera receives and records on the film the vibrations of the object that you photograph. You must fix the impression on the film to make it permanent. Movements and colors of objects we photograph are projected by first fixing, then projecting. It's the same with you in thought, word, and act. Each selective set of brain cells records, fixes, and projects the corresponding vibrations. Realize this mighty truth, that everything is in vibration, and according to the vibration you receive and fix, so will you project. We should constantly recognize this power we have of projecting that which we hold in our mind, a picture. Yes, and we can absolutely project that picture. The masters are able to hold a picture in their mind, and by the power of concentration that they can actually reproduce it so that we can all see it visibly. We have this power within ourselves if we could but realize it is possible. Endeavor every day of your life to reproduce that which is already perfect within you. Refuse to see any imperfect condition. Refuse to receive any imperfect vibrations. Every time these vibrations come to you, refuse to accept them. Then the real self will outpicture in your mind the picture of itself. It will not be long before you will control all inharmonious vibrations, transmuting them and reproducing that which is already perfect. This is the highest form of healing. You have the power to change the elements, to change the vibrations in matter. You have dominion over matter when you're able to unfold the perfect idea. Do you think you could do it? Persevere. By the power of your own consciousness, you create that which you hold before it. Every thought tends to outpicture itself. The subconscious will creates the mold for whatever is held in your imagination, and the image you hold comes forth. People speak of the ills the flesh is heir to, but should rather speak of the ills fancy breeds. In treating by suggestion, it is wrong to make the patient repeat, my sore foot, or whatever trouble, is getting better and better. Many people get worse. They get the reverse of what they desire because the image of the trouble predominates. When Cooey found this out, he invented the formula, day by day, in every respect, I'm getting better and better. His patients had to say it 20 times without thinking of anything else while in a relaxed condition. He found this method gave good results. The reason, of course, is they did not hold the image of their condition, and by creating a word expression, day by day, in every respect, I'm getting better and better, it took their mind away from their trouble, lifted them out of the inharmonious vibration, and allowed nature to do her work unhindered. Nature always asserts herself when given the chance to do so. Cooey was the father of suggestion and one of the most successful men of his time. All kinds of people from all over the world went to him. Cooey arranged them in groups. He put new patients into old groups. He took the old patients first, placed them in the suggestible state, spoke to them, and then took the new ones afterwards. Most humans are influenced by suggestion, some more easily than others, and one will follow another. Diseases of all kinds were cured by Cooey. I am convinced, however, that he did not do it all by suggestion. Cooey was a natural healer, and he had a mighty host of invisible beings who helped him in his work. These invisible helpers worked upon the groups as they sat in this relaxed and receptive state. Although you see the outside workings, you do not see the inside. Cooey was an agent of the great invisible spiritual world like most of the other great healers. Nevertheless, suggestion has a wonderful power, and it is necessary that every person who is learning how to heal should thoroughly understand it. It is not the suggestion but the autosuggestion that acts. The spirit that is in the individual does the work. Your suggestions would be to affirm and suggest that which is perfect, to blot out the inharmonious vibrations. By holding off the false condition, you allow that which is real to be made manifest. It is education that is required. Cures will follow. I have found that the majority of people who have taken my classes have been healed because they have received the necessary understanding. A change of consciousness takes place, and naturally cures follow. For it is the transformation of the idea into action that counts, not only the accepting of it. I have found in my work that sometimes a patient will go into the suggestive state very easily and may accept what has been said to him. Yet no results are obtained. The idea has not been transformed within himself. Why? Because in the subconsciousness there are strong opposing ideas that are preventing the idea you have given him being transferred into action. What is your cure for this? You have to educate him until such a time as a rearrangement of the subconsciousness has taken place and the opposing forces are eliminated. How do you educate him? Along the lines of truth. This is the difference between those who use only analysis and suggestion and those who know the truth of reality as well. I've known many practicing suggestive therapeutics who could not understand how they failed to cure in some cases, while other similar cases were easily cured. Yet it is simple to those who understand the great divine laws. Suggestion in itself is not always a cure, although it is a great aid and help to the cure. Many who practice hypnotism, mesmerism, and psychoanalysis think they are qualified because they have degrees. As a matter of fact, I have found that many who practice along those lines do not live a sufficiently spiritual life and have no understanding of the great spiritual laws. Therefore, they are not really qualified to do the work of healing because of the invisible influence they may create. Only those with a thorough understanding of spiritual, mental, and natural laws are capable of using this wonderful. And with that, I will take a break and I'll be back to read the final chapters another time. Take care and talk to you soon.